us now. It's hard to break us. As a matter of fact, you ain't going to do it.
Open look, Gomez, he hits it! What a play called by Tom Izzo in that timeout.
I was 7 years old watching a football game by myself, and I saw those winged helmets come out of the tunnel, and I was hooked at that point.
Kane in Chicago! Oh my God! Kane with the overtime winner!
Jameer Gibbs to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. You can't cover that man one-on-one. You just can't do it.
He drives, lobs to JD for a jam.
You play real good, you start. You don't play as good, you work your way back in. It's the American way, except America has gotten soft. But that is the American way. That's the way it works.
This is the 6'6" Kane Cunningham! Jameson Williams, he's got it! Touchdown, Lions! Now it's Larkin with a burst of speed. He scores! Gives the United States the lead for the first time tonight.
It's a Tullymore Tuesday. Glad you're with us. Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Shepard. This is X's and Bros throughout the great state of Michigan, wherever it is you may be listening, or you could be in Cadillac on WKAD, the Ticket 93.7 FM, maybe in Grand Rapids, our flagship station, WMAX 96.1 FM, the game that also serves Kalamazoo and Holland in that beautiful area. Maybe it's in Petoskey and Charlevoix, WMBN 104.7 FM, the Ticket Northern Michigan. In Traverse City, WKAD 93.7 FM, the Ticket. Our friends in Lansing carry us on the game, 7:30 a.m., WVFN. We are glad you are part of X's and Bros, brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth. Top-ranked Michigan hits the road tonight. They're going to visit Purdue. U of M is on a 10-game roll. The Boilermakers have won 4 in a row. This after a 3-game slot. Purdue's still a good team, right? For sure. But they had lost 3 in a row. Wolverines pounded at Mackey a year ago by 27. How much different will it be? There's a video on social media that sees Yaxel Landenborg talking about, pounding Purdue. And everybody's bringing it up this week because Michigan plays Purdue. The problem is that was done months ago. I mean, literally months and months ago, before the season even got rolling. And it's not like he's doing this to try and make sure, his team is fired up for Purdue this weekend or tonight. Not the case at all. So be careful on what you're seeing and when it's released. Michigan State is back on the floor tonight. They're hosting UCLA. This is the Michigan trip for the Bruins, losing at U of M over the weekend, and now they go to East Lansing with the Spartans in a foul mood. Now, the Bruins can't be happy either. Mick Cronin was really pissed off about his team after the loss to Michigan at Chrysler Center, missing a number of threes, not doing what they're supposed to be doing on the glass, and so on and so forth. We'll see how that plays out. Mick Cronin, who I thought was a really good coach at Cincinnati, or Louisville, Cincinnati, and thought he would be an ideal fit for a number of Big Ten places, including Michigan at the time when they hired Juwan Howard. But he has, I think there's some people who feel like he's kind of worn on his players and worn on maybe even some alumni. He has come across as a bit of a negative coach. His teams had always been aggressive defensively, tough, and hard-nosed. I would argue similar to MSU. He never seems satisfied. I think he's a really good coach. It's got to be a challenge. You better be mentally tough to play for him. So his team, I would expect, will have some type of response tonight. Doesn't mean I think they're going to win by any stretch, but I would expect some type of response. The Spartans have lost 3 of 4, and they're going to try and bounce back after an embarrassing loss at Wisconsin. This is for Michigan State fans. Does this cause concern? Because here's what I heard from some people yesterday. This is who Michigan State is in February. And I thought, have they always been this in February? Do we really think that Michigan State is a team that struggles in February and regains its footing in March? Do we really think that? And I wonder if people right now who follow the Spartans are concerned at all because of the way they play. I don't think it's about the wins and losses. I think it's more about how you're losing. Are you still able to keep your identity? And Michigan State recently has lost a little bit of its identity. And I wonder if that has created more concerns for Michigan State fans than in the past. Because I do believe that this is a team that has to win a certain way. I don't think they're as gifted and talented to win a bunch of different ways and bail themselves out if certain aspects of their game are not performing very well. And I think some people just get caught up in the fact that, hey, you know what? This is what happens on a pretty regular basis. We're going to be okay with it, and we'll find our way in March. Well, you've got some teams that are a little bit, especially in the conference, that are pretty tough to deal with right now. So they have beaten Illinois, which is really good. You know, like a Big Ten tournament, whatever, when that shows up. How much does that really matter? Probably not much at all. It's not like they're not going to make the tournament. They're going to be fine there. Where they go is a big deal. That's why it was a big deal for, Houston last night. I mean, Houston blew a 10-point lead. Iowa State beats them, hit some big threes, and made their free throws down the stretch. Houston did not. And suddenly, Houston might drop a line. So we'll get into that with you coming up. Latest college basketball poll does have Michigan at the top for the first time in 13 years. They received 60 of the possible 61 first-place votes. Who received the other? Houston, who just lost last night. Michigan, 24-1 as they enter tonight. Houston was ranked second until the loss last night. Duke is third, and Duke literally, it was an absolute mauling of Syracuse. Arizona dropped from first to fourth. UConn is fifth. 6 Big Ten teams are ranked, tied with the Big 12 for most of any conference. Purdue pulls in at 7, respectable for sure. Nebraska's number 9. Illinois is 10, and MSU is 15th. Okay. Here's another question for you. And look, I'm a mid-major guy, you know that. If Miami doesn't win its conference, could they be on the outside looking in, considering they have been in the top 25 for a long time? They moved up one spot. They're at 22. They are the only undefeated team in the top 25 at 25-0. And yet, Miami has 0 quality wins. Quality, that's not necessarily fair. But the big time wins, the wins you need to move up, the wins you need to verify why you're such a high seed, for example, is something every person looks at. All right. When that's what the committee looks at, the NCAA committee. They haven't beaten anybody. They've beaten teams in the Mid-American Conference, but their non-conference schedule is Old Dominion, Trinity, Air Force, Mercyhurst, Arkansas Pine Bluff, UNC Greensboro, Maine, UNC Asheville, Eastern Kentucky. You got to schedule some decent teams. And if they don't win the Mid-American Conference, and I assume they will, because I don't think there's many teams close to them, you wonder if they missed their chance. Just something I was thinking about. Here's our Mitch Lyons Wealth Poll question of the day. Ready? We have one for you every single. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll give you the Mitch Lyons Wealth Poll question of the day. The All-Star Game of Success. Does it indicate change? We'll get to that when we return on X's and Bros as we get things rolling on a Tullymore Tuesday, brought to you by Mitch Lanswell.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Grocery shopping at Meijer is a good deal better with family favorites for under $2, like red seedless grapes for $1.88 per pound. General Mills Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Honey Nut Cheerios, just $1.99 each. And select varieties of Meijer pasta are only $1 each. Great family meals at a great value. That's the good life at Meijer. Exclusions apply. See all deals in the Meijer app.
From Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Muskegon, Petoskey, Charlevoix, Traverse City, Cadillac, Lansing, and beyond, you are listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard only on the Michigan Sports Network.
Okay, back with you here on X's and Bros. Glad you're with us on a Tullymore Tuesday. Michigan State and Michigan back in action. Yesterday, a very quiet sports day, right? Very, very quiet. But we did notice over the weekend, the NBA had some success, had quite a bit of success. The All-Star game, I think it's fair to say, considering their numbers were the best in the last 15 years, that it was successful. They drew 8.8 million viewers, largest since 2011, according to NBC. The viewership of the NBA All-Star Game peaked at 9.8 million viewers. That was from 7 to 7:15. The closing minutes of the game's third quarter, when the USA Stripes defeated Team World 48-45. That's what was taking place there. That's when Kawhi Leonard went for 32, right? Okay. So I think it's fair to say that it was a success. Now, how do they capitalize on it? It's not even as much as the viewership. It's what the players said about the game more than anything else, I believe. And I wonder if this has turned the corner a little bit. I wonder if this has forced all of us to start to recognize this more as it used to be recognized, as a little bit more legitimate. When you have players using the word disappointment and showing the emotion that many of them have, I think that's really important. And I would hope the league would too. I'll give you an example. Victor Wembanyama was pretty upset that the world team lost. Okay. Anthony Edwards remembered after his team won it all, when somebody had asked him what was more satisfying, what was more gratifying, whatever, the win over the Stripes team to win the event, or the victory over the world team to get them there. And he said, obviously, over the world, because everybody was telling us how they're the best in the world. So this is the greatest feeling in the world. Victor Wembanyama, when asked about it, said, I played a part in it. Say somebody blocks me or somebody gets blocked on the other end, you don't want to let that opponent score. You know what I mean. It's something that's got to be natural. The NBA can promote whoever they want, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the best players who the people ask for. Being the face of the league, it's something that can be manufactured, but only to some extent. He wanted to win that game. And that's refreshing. I'm not saying that it's the be-all, end-all moving forward now, and that suddenly everybody's going to take the same attitude. But to have some of your prominent players, and Victor Wembanyama is, I mean, it's going to be hard to derail him from any MVP conversation if he's having a healthy season. He's way too talented and way too diverse to be kept out of that conversation. As a matter of fact, I was listening to NBA radio after the game, and I was listening to Sam Mitchell breaking down the various games. Sam Mitchell, the former Minnesota Timberwolf, and I believe he was former coach too. Anyway, he said Cade Cunningham better win the MVP this year because it's going to be Victor Wembanyama's to lose moving forward. Now, it could be the case, you know. I'm not saying Cade Cunningham. I'm not going to say I agree with him that Cade Cunningham does have to win it this year, because he'll be in that conversation too. He is a very unselfish star, Cade Cunningham is. He doesn't look for his shot nearly enough. He's very conscious of making sure everybody else is involved, which that's very noble. That's why he's second in the league in assists. Only Nikola Jokic averages more assists than Cade Cunningham. Plays a lot of minutes. He's top 5 in minutes, but he wants to make sure a lot of his guys are involved. I love the passion, the energy, the give a blank in that All-Star game. And I hope that this has it, the same pattern with other players moving forward. The only thing that I've wanted, and I said this yesterday, is I've wanted Team USA against Team World. I understand, though, that that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because this is an American. We have dominated this sport since it's been around. The United States has owned this space. This is who we are. It is what we consider to be our sport or one of our sports. Now, we've lost in the World Baseball Classic, right? Hockey was never known as our sport. It's always been known as Canada's sport, even I would say Russia's. And yet look at how competitive the United States has been in World Juniors and, of course, at the Four Nations and the Olympics, even though the U.S. hasn't won it since 1980, but they've been on the cusp. They've made headway. Basketball's a little different. It's a dominating performance on the part of the United States on a regular basis. You put U.S. against the world and the world wins, then what happens? It's one thing when everybody's saying the best players in the world are not from the United States. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, right? You put them on the floor and they beat Team USA, and then you're talking about something different. Then suddenly the confidence from other nations starts to rise a little bit. And perhaps there's never an inferiority complex. And quite honestly, maybe sometimes that's what you need is someone to punch you in the mouth a little bit. Somebody had tweeted this out yesterday, somebody from an ESPN account or a Fox account, excuse me. The top 5 players that actually cared during the All-Star game. Now, in the past, I don't know if you could come up with 5 players who cared. But to put it in perspective, this is what you got. You got Victor Wembanyama, Jalen Duren, Anthony Edwards, Kawhi Leonard, and Cade Cunningham. I don't know how much of that has to do with the fact that the 2 Pistons were playing for their head coach, and their head coach kind of almost forces that upon people. That's who he is. I love that about him. I hope everybody else loves that about him as well. He's a guy who, to say that he demands, that might be a little tough, demands accountability in an all-star game. We know he does during the regular season and the postseason. But I think that's something that we should be, as we move forward, we should probably look at. I'm super excited about the All-Star game moving forward because of that. And to have 2 players under their coach to be associated with it, I think is really important. And bodes well for it moving forward. There were so many people shocked that it was a really good NBA All-Star game, and you're looking for some of the best moments. What are some of the best moments? Well, when you got Team USA in those rosters and you've got young guys playing defense like Detroit had. Sure, the Kawhi Leonard 31 in Game 3 was pretty awesome. Cade Cunningham with a block, Cade Cunningham with a steal that leads being unselfish. Jalen Duren inside being a presence. Bodes well for the league. They need to capitalize on this, which is what the NHL did with the Four Nations tournament. Our phone number on the Meijer hotline, by the way, is 866-838-4843. You can text us, Sports Radio 21,000. When we come back, there's been some complaints about the coverage of Team USA hockey. We'll address that and why it's wrong after this on X's and Bros.
Grocery shopping at Meijer is a good deal better with family favorites for under $2, like red seedless grapes for $1.88 per pound. General Mills Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Honey Nut Cheerios, just $1.99 each. And select varieties of Meijer pasta are only $1 each. Great family meals at a great value. That's the good life at Meijer. Exclusions apply. See all deals in the Meijer app.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team at Dorn Mayhew, West Michigan. Now, they continue to grow. They got their worldwide headquarters in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. They are worldwide. They are the leaders when it comes to accounting, CPA, and business needs. Simple and easy. Just Google Dorn Mayhew. And also, Josh Garvey joins me every Tuesday as we talk hoops with former Michigan and Cleveland Cavaliers head coach John Beilein. Tuesdays, 5 p.m., Josh Garvey, Coach Beilein, and myself, we talk Michigan, Michigan State, and the Pistons. Talking hoops happens all the way through the NBA Finals. And could you imagine if the Pistons are in the NBA Finals? If you ever have a hoops question for us, you can drop it at Huge Show on Twitter, The Huge Show on Facebook, and Talking Hoops every Tuesday at 5 p.m., presented by one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms, Dorn Mayhew.
Avelo Air knows how much you love the Tigers. They love them too. They want to help you get to spring training in Lakeland because it is an awesome time. They fly nonstop from Grand Rapids to Lakeland Thursdays and Sundays, and nonstop from Detroit to Lakeland Wednesdays and Saturdays. Everyday low fares and reliable service. You don't want to fly anywhere else. Book your trip to Lakeland on AveloAir.com and use the promo code HUGE for $20 off a round-trip base fare when you book by March 31st. Restrictions do apply.
The Michigan Sports Network is your exclusive home for X's and Bros with Matt Shepard and The Huge Show later today at 3 p.m.
All right, back with you here on X's and Bros, 35 after the hour. Thanks for joining us on a Tullymore Tuesday. Earlier in the show, because last night was a pretty slow sports day. Today picks up a little bit, and then tomorrow will be even better. NBA starts to get back in that groove. But Michigan and Michigan State are playing tonight. Michigan State's at home against UCLA. Michigan is on the road at Purdue, where I would consider it one of the toughest places to play in the Big Ten. They still have a few challenges. They still have to go to Champaign-Urbana. Later this week, they play Duke on a neutral site, and Duke looks really good. Of course, Michigan looks really good. But we were talking about just Michigan State a little bit, and somebody had mentioned to me, well, this is who they are. This is who Michigan State is in February. And I was like, well, are they really? Because they just got blown out by Wisconsin. They're 1-2 in February. And I looked it up, and you don't have to have a huge sample. I don't know how big's a sample size for you. How many is enough to convince you it is? It's not a year, right? I went back the last 5 years. In 2021, Michigan State was 5-4 in February. In 2022, they were 3-5 in February. In 2023, they were 4-3 during the month. In 2024, they were 4-3 during the month. And last year, they were 5-3. You're talking about a team, and this year, so far, they're 1-2. So it's not complete just yet. You're talking about a team that in the last 5 years, in February, is 21-18. Does that surprise you? Maybe more importantly, does that concern you? It's something to keep an eye on as you move forward through the rest of the month. All right? You got UCLA tonight at home. You still have Ohio State at home on Sunday. Should be a win. You still have to go to West Lafayette to close out the month. Let's see what Michigan State's record is when February turns to March, because that's money time, according to a lot of Spartans fans. Okay. The Olympics are going on. Team USA has 19 medals. Norway leads everybody in medals. I don't know where the hockey medals are going to go. Most people would say for the men, it'll be Canada. For the women, it'll be the United States. And look what the United States has done. For every Olympics, since this has been a sport in the Olympics, women's hockey, it's either been the United States or Canada that has won, and Canada's won more than the U.S. The U.S. has not allowed a goal so far. They have beaten every team in the Olympic competition, and they've reached the gold medal against Team Canada coming up. And the U.S. has outscored their opposition. I believe it's 26-0. 5-0, 6-0, 5-0, 5-0, blowing teams out of the building. They just beat Sweden 5-0. So they played Canada, who they beat 5-0 earlier in the tournament. But Team USA for the men, of course, still has to wait. They'll take on the winner of Sweden-Latvia. They have to win 2 games to reach the gold medal game. And that gold medal game, in all likelihood, is going to be against Canada. I think there's only 3 teams in the entire tournament that have all NHL players. It's Canada, it's the U.S., and it's Sweden. So it's not going to be easy to get by Team Sweden. The criticism for Team USA, even though they're undefeated, and I think some of this might have been stemming from when there was a lackluster 6-3 win over Denmark. They had a nice bounce-back win over Germany, 5-1, where they were really impressive. And they opened the tournament in convincing fashion, too. But the concern for some people, besides the starts, because when you watch Canada start, and you watch Canada open up a can on France 10-2, not that France is anything special, But you remember that the U.S. and Latvia ended the first period in a 1-1 tie, that the U.S. and Denmark ended the first period with Denmark up 2-1. The point of people's criticism has been aimed directly at Austin Matthews, unfortunately. Austin Matthews has had some of the best chances in the entire tournament of any team. Last game in the victory against Germany, he had 2 goals and an assist. Those were his first 2 goals of the tournament. But again, we're only 3 games deep. I think he's an excellent player. I have no problem with him being captain. I like his style. I like his 200-foot game. I think he plays the right way. I think he's got really good vision. But I think a lot of people have taken aim at him, first of all, because he plays in Toronto, and it's the people who are Maple Leafs fans have not been delivered with the type of postseason results they had hoped for. And who else are they going to blame it on? They're going to blame it on him. And those who don't like him because of that see him as the captain of Team USA, the biggest threat against Team Canada for the Olympics. And this is the risk you run with this type of talent pool in the National Hockey League, allowing your players to go and play in the Olympics, which I'm all for. I think it's great. It's a great display. I would love to go back and say, oh, please, why don't we have collegians? They would get, for the most part, I would guess, destroyed by what teams from other countries are putting out there. Tough for a bunch of college kids to go up and play against Team Sweden or Team Canada, which ironically enough has Macklin Celebrini, who's only 2 years removed from college in his own right. But anyway, that was, a very Pollyannish type of society we lived in back in 1980 when Team USA won it with a bunch of collegians. It's not the way it works anymore, and that's fine. The U.S. had to adapt, and they did. Got no issue with that. But this is when you have NHL players go over and play in the Olympics, you're going to have that defectiveness of people rooting against their hometown player or the guy who mans or is their best player on your current favorite team. So people in Toronto who love their Maple Leafs, and I respect their pride and their passion, but they want Austin Matthews to do really well as the captain of the Maple Leafs, and yet he's the captain of their enemy in the Olympics, or one of their enemies in the Olympics. So he's taken a lot of heat on that. I was listening to a podcast the other day, a hockey podcast, Spittin' Chicklets, which is a really good podcast. Been around for a long, long time and talk a lot of hockey. This is what they were saying about Team USA and who they think is the key player moving forward. Listen to this.
I think Larkin is the key for me. They have him centering the third line now. He's had Tage Thompson, and it used to be Kyle Connor, and then Connor got taken out of the lineup. So now I'm not sure who's going to be their permanent guy moving forward. It's been a bit of a rotation. But you guys know that third line center is a pretty important position, especially when the games get, they mean more and there's more matchups and deep. So he's the guy that I kind of look at, and he's been pretty good. His second game wasn't amazing, but Larkin's the guy that I'm kind of looking at.
I get that. Had an assist in the last game. The thing that Dylan Larkin's done better than anybody else is win faceoffs. And he's also a guy, look, every center in any of the good teams, every center, not just Dylan Larkin. So I'm not making this out to be the Red Wing captain does it the right way. I just said Austin Matthews, he centers Team USA's, I would say, second line, because it's Jack Eichel and the two Tkachuk brothers who are on the first line. They all play a 200-foot game. That's what makes Jack Eichel so good. He's a great skater, okay? He's got a really great shot, but he plays 200 feet. Austin Matthews plays 200 feet. Dylan Larkin plays 200 feet. You're not on this team if you're only playing half the ice. But Dylan Larkin has been so good at faceoffs and in other areas other than scoring. I would argue he needs to score some if the U.S. wants to achieve their ultimate goal. So a lot of people have taken shots at Austin Matthews, the captain. You heard a national podcast say they're going to need more from Dylan Larkin as a key figure moving forward. And I saw 2 days ago the comments online where too much is being made of the Tkachuk brothers, that there are other storylines. Even our friend Keith Gave has said that there's other storylines on this team. And I thought to myself for just a moment, I'm like, wait a minute. In the very first game, Brock Nelson had 2 goals and an assist. And the story of his grandfather and his uncle, Dave Christian, who played on the 1980 team, was prominent. And because they wore a certain 2 numbers, Brock Nelson wears 29, which is the other 2 numbers added up. His grandfather wore number 23 in the 1960 Olympics, and his uncle, Dave Christian, wore number 6 in, I believe it was 6. That would add up to 29. It makes sense. Wore number 6 in Team USA in 1980. And so Brock Nelson wears 29. So I'm thinking that was a storyline. When Jeremy Swayman started, that was a storyline, wasn't it? Absolutely. The Tage Thompson effort has been a storyline without question. Quinn Hughes's piloting of the power play and the number 1 defensive pairing has been a storyline. And part of the reason the Tkachuk brothers are a storyline is because Brady Tkachuk scored the first goal for Team USA in the Olympics. Both of them dropped the gloves in the Four Nations tournament to tell anybody in the world who would listen that we are serious about this. And let's face it, when the U.S. was having some trouble getting on pace against Denmark, when did it start to change? It started to change when Brady Tkachuk had a very physical check along the far boards, and it led to a goal. So why would you, if you're a broadcast or if you're a writer, or even if you're just a hockey fan, how do you not recognize that these guys have been a fixture? Just because they're getting a lot of love, and this happens, I suppose, in a lot of sports. It happens in, I would say, every sport. How many times have we heard Chris Collinsworth talk about Patrick Mahomes, and then the next day you and I are going, oh my God, give me a break, right? Is that Patrick Mahomes' fault? No. Was it the fault of Arch Manning that people stupidly, way ahead of schedule, suggested he might be the favorite to win the Heisman before he took a legitimate snap this past season? And yet they are measured against that. The reason they're talking about the Tkachuk brothers in this Olympic tournament is because those guys play hard and it matters to them. And they have been seen talking glowingly about how much this means to them, representing their country. When did that become a bad thing? My God, man. It's amazing to me how people have come out and wanted to take shots at them for part of the reason because of how much pride they have. Now, they were on Sesame Street, and Elmo's asking them planes, and are they supposed to say no? If they say no, they're egotistical jackasses who aren't willing to do something for a kid's show. If they do it, they're getting too much publicity. Remember, after the Four Nations tournament a year ago, they have a podcast, and I get it. You know, sometimes too much notoriety is a possibility. Like we've said this a little bit about Amon-Ra St. Brown. He does a lot of commercials. He does a podcast. He participates in the NBA All-Star festivities. He's out there front and center. Maybe that's the case you feel for Dan Campbell, because Dan Campbell does a lot of commercials too. He does lawyer commercials. He does restaurant commercials, and people are like, okay, that's enough. Can you please just concentrate on winning football games? Which I have to remind people, it's not like he's not leaving practice early to do the commercials. He's doing those in the off season. There's not a Wednesday morning walkthrough practice, and then let's get after individual drills, and then let's go through team organized drills with first string offense against number 2 defense or whatever. And Dan says, you know what? Stop. I got to go do a commercial. You guys run the practice yourselves. We'll see you tomorrow. That doesn't happen. Okay. So Dan Campbell's doing that on his off season. It's not taking him away from anything. I don't think that's taking anything away from the Tkachuk brothers either. And why should we care? They don't play for the Detroit Red Wings. But don't tell me you wouldn't want either or one of those guys to at least play for the Red Wings. It's exactly the type of player you would want. You need a power forward who can score, and both those guys are power forwards who can score. Now, they don't have the scoring touch as their father, who's one of the greatest offensive U.S.-born players in history, but they play a very physical game that you and I would love to see on a nightly basis at Little Caesars. I'm glad they get a lot of pub because you know what? It means hockey's getting pub. And how do you not love the chirp from Matthew Tkachuk to Leon Draisaitl the other day when he said, always a bridesmaid, never a bride, because Edmonton can't seem to get over the proverbial hump. And ironically enough, it was Matthew Tkachuk and his team, Florida, that beat Leon Draisaitl and the Oilers in the Stanley Cup Finals not long ago. So I hope people kind of take that into account a little bit moving forward. All right. When we come back, not a surprise, but there's a specific player for the Tigers who is in the top 10 of their positions. How many others should be considered? You might be surprised at how many have been. 8 o'clock, Anthony Broom from the Wolverine will join us. We'll talk Michigan and Purdue. 8:35, Chris Solari from the Free Press joins us. We'll talk Michigan State and UCLA. All that coming up here on X's and Bros, this first hour of our program on a Tullymore Tuesday, proudly brought to you by our friend Mitch Lyons Wealth at MitchLyonsWealth.com.
You worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Hey, when you travel, you want low fares, you want reliable service, and you want a direct flight. Avelo Air gives you all of that and more. Avelo Air has direct flights to take Tigers fans to spring training in Lakeland. Avelo Air will take you from Grand Rapids to Lakeland directly on Thursdays and Sundays. They will take you directly from Detroit to Lakeland on Wednesdays and Saturdays. You literally land 20 minutes from the ballpark. You don't have to wait in lines. You don't have to worry about any of that other hassle. This is hassle-free travel like you deserve. Go to AveloAir.com and get $20 off a base fare round-trip flight to Lakeland when you book your trip by March 31st. All you have to do is use the code HUGE. That's HUGE on AveloAir.com. Restrictions do apply. See AveloAir.com for details today.
Grocery shopping at Meijer is a good deal better with family favorites for under $2, like red seedless grapes for $1.88 per pound. General Mills Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Honey Nut Cheerios, just $1.99 each. And select varieties of Meijer pasta are only $1 each. Great family meals at a great value. That's the good life at Meijer. Exclusions apply. See all deals in the Meijer app.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
Farrah's Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
You are listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard on the Michigan Sports Network, but you don't need to be in Michigan to tune us in. Search XB Mornings on X or X's and Bros on YouTube.
Back with you here on X's and Bros throughout the state of Michigan, hour number 2. In hour number 3, we'll talk a lot of college basketball. At 8 o'clock, Anthony Broom from the Wolverine will join us. You can follow him on Twitter at Anthony Broom with an E at the end. And at 8:35, Chris Solari from the Free Press will take a Michigan State angle. Our Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question, other than hockey, what sport in the Olympics are you most watching? Curling, figure skating, skiing, or other? Other than hockey, what is it you're watching? Curling, figure skating, skiing, or other? Vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. I'll retweet it, and we'll get you up to date on the final results tomorrow during our program here on X's and Bros. We are with you Monday through Friday from 6 until 9. Not a lot going on last night. A little bit of an upset. Iowa State holds serve at home against Houston. Both teams pretty damn good, but the Cyclones came from 10 points down and beat the number 2 team in the country to snap a 4-game winning streak for Houston. Tonight, you get Michigan on the road at Purdue. Wolverines are number 1 in the country for the first time in 13 years. They earned 60 of the 61 first-place votes. The other team to get a vote was Houston. And as I mentioned, they lost last night. Michigan State, which is ranked 15th in the country, is at home against UCLA tonight. Spartans have lost 3 of 4 and are trying to bounce back after the setback to, obviously, Wisconsin. It is a team that, as we mentioned, over the last 5 years, that is 21-18 in the month of February. So when people tell you this is who we are, I don't know how far back you have to go, but a 5-year sample size is pretty damn good. And they do have some February blues, if you will, and then seem to pick it back up in March. Let's see if that is the case for Michigan State this year, and we sure as hell hope so. The Tigers are their spring training is well underway. Buster Olney has come out on a regular basis. Every year does this. He does the top 10 positions top 10 players at every position. And he started yesterday with starting pitchers. Duh, right? I guess my question was going to be, would Framber Valdez even sniff it? He's getting paid like he is. Would he be one of those guys? And Buster Olney's been around for a long time. I respect his opinion a great deal. It doesn't mean that he always sways me if I have an opinion on a player. This is not by any stretch trailblazing news here, but he has Tarek Skubal as number 1. All things being equal, you prefer the left-hander, according to one manager who said that, which is interesting to me. I've always felt this way about baseball. Why would you prefer the lefty when most batters are righty? You know what I mean? But anyway, Skubal's been at the top of the mountain longer than Skeens, who made his major league debut early in 2024. Skubal has back-to-back Cy Youngs, something that hasn't been accomplished by an American League pitcher in about a quarter of a century. Greg Maddux and Randy Johnson are the only pitchers to win at least 3 consecutive Cy Young awards, something Skubal will try and do this season before he enters free agency in 2026, at the end of 2026. Paul Skeens, he has his number 2, not a surprise. Yoshi Yamamoto is number 3. He was the MVP of the World Series a year ago. Garrett Crochet, who led the league in strikeouts, is number 4. Christopher Sanchez, an underrated player for Philadelphia, is 5. Hunter Brown, the Wayne State product, is number 6. He had an ERA plus of 172, which is pretty damn good, and teams are only batting 201 against him. Max Fried, who led the league in wins with 19 a year ago, is 7. Logan Webb, who led the league in complete games, is number 8. Chris Sale, number 9, and Jacob deGrom as at 10, which is a little interesting to me, but I'd forgotten that he did make 30 starts a year ago and had a batting average against of just 196, which is really impressive. So I didn't think Framber Valdez by any stretch would be there. I did wonder under the honorable mentions. They've got Blake Snell, Zach Wheeler, Garrett Cole, Freddie Peralta, who was traded to the Mets, Brian Wu in Seattle, who, if had stayed healthy last year, might have been an easier course for Seattle. Dylan Cease for Toronto, who will try and help Toronto get back to the World Series. Andrew Abbott, Carlos Rodon, Kevin Gausman, and Cole Reagans. Cole Reagans over Framber Valdez, who's getting paid like he should be among those who you and I would be talking about among best at their position. But I digress. I wonder, is there another position player for Detroit who will be in his top 10? Riley Green will be in the top 10 in left field. I know how you feel about him. I think you're wrong, but that's how people feel about him. All right. They're going to be, oh, sorry, this guy, too many strikeouts. That's all they're going to dwell on. We talked about it yesterday. All right. That's what's going to happen. I'm ready for that. But it's true. He is one of the best left fielders in all of baseball. Defensively and offensively, pretty damn good too. The only two guys, I believe, to hit more homers as a left fielder, and one is a stretch because Kyle Schwarber's a DH. He doesn't play left field. But it would be Kyle Schwarber and Taylor Ward. Taylor Ward had 36, so did Riley Green. Those two guys, Schwarber had more than anybody else at, 58. But Schwarber doesn't play any defense. And if he does play defense, you got to get him out of there in the flipping 6th or 7th inning. He's going to kill you. It's terrible. Okay? I think he was a first baseman at Indiana. I called some of his college games at Indiana. So for BTN, Kyle Schwarber and Taylor Ward are the only ones who had more home runs. Kyle Schwarber is the only left fielder to have more RBIs. Now, we can nitpick. I just picked two statistics that I think would benefit my argument. You could pick some statistics like batting average, for example, that would fit your statistic, okay, or your belief that maybe he shouldn't be in there. I would argue overall in all of baseball, not just the American League, among left fielders, he had the 8th highest batting average. And if you want to know who had the highest batting average amongst left fielders, you may not be able to name him. Tyler Soderstrom from the A's, okay? So if it's about production, remember where Riley Green ranks in those types of productive numbers. Home runs and RBIs. And he was second among left fielders in slugging, which I think is really important. That's what today's baseball is about. Whether you like it or not, it's true. That's what today's baseball is about. He's going to be a top 10 left fielder. There's nobody in center field. As much as I like Parker Meadows defensively, offensively, there's too much of a gap, and there's nobody in right field. Because as much as I like Kerry Carpenter, there's too much of a gap defensively. So it's going to be really hard for, I think, anybody to say, yes, legitimately, he belongs out there with Aaron Judge and Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis Jr. and George Springer and Kyle Tucker and the like. It's just not going to happen, right? There's nobody on the infield that I can think of unless you go with Gleyber Torres, whose defense I think hurts him, but he is not in the same realm of Ketel Marte or Nico Horner or somebody of that ilk. So I don't think Spencer Torkelson's going to be there from a first baseman standpoint. I don't think Gleyber Torres will be there from a second baseman standpoint. I mean, you get too many good first basemen. Matt Olson had an off year last year, and he had 29 bombs. All right, Matt Olson's going to be in the top 10. Nick Kurtz is going to be in the top 10. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to be in the top 10. Freddie Freeman's going to be in the top 10. Pete Alonso will be in the top 10, right? Bryce Harper is going to be in the top 10. Spencer Torkelson's not. There's only one other position, which, again, this goes back to why there's a little bit of concern on my part from an offensive standpoint. Maybe Dylan Dingler. Maybe. And it probably is too early. Don't know if you can put him ahead of, depends on, are they going to put him ahead of Yanier Diaz or JT Realmuto or somebody of that ilk? He might be right around 8 or 9. It'll be interesting to see. And I'm excited to read about it. Now, the Tigers do have a winner, but are there any losers or question marks when it comes to the Tigers? SI.com had a very interesting poll coming out, and the Tigers are littered on some of those lists. We'll get to that coming up. and how a national website feels about the Tigers or doesn't feel about them. All that coming up here on X's and Bros. We're brought to you in the second hour by our friends at Meijer.
Grocery shopping at Meijer is a good deal better with family favorites for under $2, like red seedless grapes for $1.88 per pound. General Mills Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Honey Nut Cheerios, just $1.99 each. And select varieties of Meijer pasta are only $1 each. Great family meals at a great value. That's the good life at Meijer. Exclusions apply. See all deals in the Meijer app.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
Avelo Air knows how much you love the Tigers. They love them too. They want to help you get to spring training in Lakeland because it is an awesome time. They fly nonstop from Grand Rapids to Lakeland Thursdays and Sundays, and nonstop from Detroit to Lakeland Wednesdays and Saturdays. Everyday low fares and reliable service. You don't want to fly anywhere else. Book your trip to Lakeland on AveloAir.com and use the promo code HUGE for $20 off a round-trip base fare when you book by March 31st. Restrictions do apply.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
We're here on X's and Bros. Have you seen the video of Michael Jordan and the celebration after his car wins the Daytona 500? I would assume so. And there's a kid up there celebrating in the midst of all the confetti, right? And the champagne popping, and they're spraying it everywhere. And Jordan, who, you know how I feel about Michael Jordan, right? I mean, Jordan is there wiping the confetti off the kid and getting the champagne off him. And people are putting things on social media that are just untrue, unfair, and wrong about him and kids. It's kind of a sick place. It really is kind of a sick place. Welcome back, X's and Bros. I mean, you can see it obviously that he's not doing anything that would be inappropriate there, helping the kid. We're with you Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. We also stream live on X. We stream live on YouTube, and we stream live on Facebook as well. Winners and losers, and then some question marks in the Major League Baseball offseason. This headline caught my eye from Sports Illustrated. And the winners they have, among the winners, besides the Dodgers, who continue to just kill it in the offseason and then kill it during the regular season, is Tarek Skubal. And they wrote right away. And this is the thing that you have to be concerned about sometimes when you go to these arbitration hearings. And you remember, we said public perception. It's not always about right and wrong, numbers specific, but also about how do you look in the eyes of the public. And for the Tigers, and this is water under the bridge, but it's an association to this article. For the Tigers, for them not to have the foresight of seeing how low they were going compared to how high he might be worth was a miscalculation to the greatest extent. The first line in this article on Tarek Skubal: "Take that, Tigers." Detroit took the two-time reigning AL Cy Young Award winner to arbitration, offering a paltry, okay, this is a national publication, this is not me, a paltry $19 million, while Skubal sought a record $32. He didn't budge, banked on his talent and track record to win the day, and did. It also may have permanently damaged his relationship with the franchise. I'm not going to go quite that far. There's got to be a part of you that at one point goes, this is what you thought of me? Again, that's the danger. There's no way you go into a situation around a conference room trying to figure this out with the people who run your purse strings, your owner, your president of baseball operations, your general manager, maybe even your manager, and you collectively think he deserves less than Jack Flaherty. He deserves only $4 million more than Alex Cobb. He deserves the equivalent to whatever pitcher in Major League Baseball, while the best of the best are getting paid an exorbitant amount. You can't come to that conclusion. You can't be a baseball smart person and come to that conclusion. This is what you get in the aftermath. The speculation. And it's unfair, but I mean, this is what happens oftentimes. Skubal will be a free agent. They go on to add insult to injury. While battling Skubal over his salary, the Tigers inked Framber Valdez to a 3-year, $115 million deal. The average annual value, $38.3 million, far more than Detroit tried to avoid giving Skubal. Make it make sense. Again, a national publication from afar, separating itself, looking at just the optics, and the optics were terrible, coming to that conclusion. And what I said at the time, every single broadcast, whether it's on Apple, on ESPN, on NBC, on whatever network is carrying a team playing the Tigers that day, if Skubal's pitching, and even when he's not, that will be a storyline. Not just his free agency, but what the Tigers offered him. And then it leads to a conversation. Trust me when I tell you that, okay? That's exactly what's going to happen. So they write a little bit about Skubal. They talk about a few other winners like the Cubs. And then they talk about losers. Detroit isn't in that conversation, which is good, but question marks. And I was gonna move on, and as I scroll down, one of the question marks they have is Framber Valdez. Now, I was in favor of signing him. $38 million a year was too rich for my blood, but I was in favor of signing him. Here's what they write. Valdez entered free agency as one of the best pitchers on the market, but remained a free agent until February 10 when the Tigers gave him the above-mentioned 3 years, $115 million deal. It's a high AAV pact, but it isn't the kind of long-term deal the 32-year-old was looking for. Frankly, he was probably accepting something close to the deal Dylan Cease ultimately received. Dylan Cease was a guy who got a 7-year, $210 million deal, just so you know, from Toronto, which is a lot. Anyway, Valdez was solid for the Astros in 2025. His sinker was punished last year. Teams batting over 300 against it. He's reuniting with A.J. Hinch, will be paired with Skubal as the top of the rotation. Two-time All-Star, has a lot of pressure on him to hit the ground running in Detroit after getting a massive deal while the franchise tried to nickel and dime Skubal. So even talking about somebody else, they go back and dig the organization in their conversations or their arbitration specifically with Tarik Skubal. They finish. It could be a great fit or it might be a disaster waiting to happen. Didn't really think it would be that much of a question mark. I think he's a really good pitcher. I've already expressed my concern about being a ground ball pitcher, but I do believe that it was a good move on the part of Detroit, despite the amount of money that they spent on getting. Our man Freddie, always coming through. My opinion, Dylan Larkin is morphing into Matthew Stafford in Detroit until he gets deep into the playoffs and or to the finals, or it may be elsewhere when he does. Yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from regarding that. Dylan Larkin plays 20 minutes a game. I think he averages 20 minutes and 18 seconds per game for the Red Wings. I think people view hockey much differently than football, especially at the quarterback position. If he were, I think a lot of people know who Dylan Larkin is. If it were Connor McDavid, and he's considered the best player in the world, and he's not getting there, it might be a little different. So I'm not going to go so far. He's the captain. He's been around for a while. I think to your point, Freddie, he's got to get the playoffs first and foremost. Question on Cade. He's a quiet star here, has 3 years left on a contract. Do you ever think that he ends up in Dallas in his prime, creating a super team there? That's his hometown. Well, that's a really good question. I hope not. I love everything about that dude. I like how he handles himself. I like his game. I like his representation of the city. Just because a guy, we always think guys have to go home, and that's not the way it always works. I think Detroit understands that he's going to be the mainstay for this team for a long time. Tom Gores will do whatever he can to keep him here. Shep, I don't understand Pittsburgh. They're in a tough division. They won't win. They won't spend. And their star pitcher this young, talented with a lot of time left on his rookie deal. Why wouldn't you trade him for a ransom now? Because you have to sell tickets. Who else are you going to go see? He's the guy. No question. More of your texts. You can text us, Sports Radio 21,000. You can call us on the Meyer hotline. The number is 866-838-4843. When we come back, a rather humbling start to the early power rankings by one national member of the media regarding Major League Baseball. In the 8 o'clock hour, Anthony Broom at 8 o'clock. He's from the Wolverine. Chris Solari of the Free Press, who covers Michigan State, at 8:35.
It's time to go on the court with Tim Stout.
It's a new day to celebrate and be free. It's a new day full of action and excitement because it's a day for winning. Only at Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort, your getaway reimagined. Michigan State men's basketball down to the final 3 home games of the season. 2 of them this week. And if the Spartans want to help their seeding for the NCAA tournament, the Big Ten tournament, let alone stay alive to repeat as Big Ten regular season champion, 2 wins required, right? Of the Tuesday night game against UCLA at 8:30, and then after that, the Spartans host Ohio State at 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. These, as Jed Heathcote used to say, are the dog days of February where players are tired. But at least the Spartans are not on the road this week. They still have key road games coming up, and they still have a key game to end the regular season at Michigan, which means for now, the 2 games with UCLA and Ohio State at the Breslin Center are crucial.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Thanks for listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard on the Michigan Sports Network. You want to talk to Shep? Call us at 866-838-4843.
Quiet night in sports, but it picks up tonight, and we're going to be all over it for sure. Welcome back, X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9, streaming live on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter as well. We're going to talk with Anthony Broome and get a Michigan perspective, the number one team in the country, plays at Purdue. I don't know if I'm going to ask him about the Yannenborg thing. I mean, Landenborg did that months ago, and people are acting like he did it after their last win over UCLA. It's ridiculous. Anyway, he's probably had to deal with that, so we might touch on that. But Michigan is at Mackey against Purdue tonight, and Purdue's ranked 7th in the country. It's going to be loud. That's going to be an electric atmosphere. Michigan State is home to UCLA. To say it's a must-win is ridiculous, but look, when you're not playing very good basketball, and they haven't played very good basketball in 3 of the last 4 games, not just because they've lost, but because of how they've started, how they've been in holes. Got to get out of it. 21-18 in the month of February over the last 5 years. We'll talk with Chris Solari of the Free Press at 8:35. All right. Also want to talk a little bit about franchise tags in the NFL, since that franchise tag list begins on today. Franchise tag window begins today and runs through March 3rd. Would you franchise any of the Lions? There is a Lion who's come out in support of at least one player on his team. This is why you don't listen to players. So we'll get to that coming up too. So a lot to squeeze in before we talk to our guests in the 8 o'clock hour. These power rankings, many people roll their eyes at. You and I try to pick them apart, and for good reason. But it's how a national audience views your team. You and I see them on a regular basis. We're reading about them. We're hearing quotes about them. We're talking about them on a regular basis. How do you feel about your team? Signing Framber Valdez, signing Justin Verlander. I had a guy at the gym to ask me yesterday. He said, hey, what do you think about the signing of Verlander? How many wins do you think he's going to get? And I said, and this guy plays tennis every day at my club. He says, look, I said, I don't look at it as victories. I look at how many starts is he going to give Detroit and how many innings. If he's going to give you 160 innings and he makes 28 starts, that means he's done something well. He stayed healthy, and he's been good enough to take the ball when A.J. Hinch feels like his team has a chance to win. Wins can be very deceiving. Not to take anything away from Casey Mize, who I like a lot. He had 14 wins a year ago, one more than Tarek Skubal. Who's the better pitcher? Okay, so let's look at innings pitched. Let's look at number of starts. The ERA is important. Victories, I suppose, come into play. Max Fried led everybody with 19 a year ago. Christopher Sanchez at 18. Would you say they're better than Tarek Skubal? Probably not. Anyway, not that they're bad pitchers, but they're just not as good. So I think you've got to be careful. He was super excited about getting him. And then the assumption is, and I think Detroit's got the best talent in the division, that this team is destined for World Series prominence. Other people who can separate their emotions and get caught up, because I was a big fan of Valdez and I'm a fan of getting Verlander. And I said yesterday, remember, this is a situation. You get these guys that will keep you competitive for sure till the trade deadline. That's when you make your move, because they haven't made it yet. So my guess is they're going to make it if indeed they are in the position to take advantage of it. CBSSports.com came out with their top teams, their top 10 power rankings going into the baseball season if everybody stays healthy through spring training. They've got Baltimore at number 10. Adley Rutschman's got to have a big bounce back year for them. They've got Philadelphia at number 9. Nick Castellanos leaves. He's in San Diego. It didn't end well. Bryce Harper has had a problem with Dave Dombrowski. Kyle Schwarber, they re-signed. Their window with those players, I think players have windows, not teams. It's how you rebuild your team. I've made that statement numerous times. Their window with Schwarber and Harper and Trey Turner and JT Realmuto and Zach Wheeler, and maybe to a certain extent, Brandon Marsh is closing. They've got to take advantage of it. They've got them at number 9. The Cubs at number 8. All right. You pick up Alex Bregman. You add him to Pete Crow Armstrong, Nico Horner, Ian Happ. It's a pretty good team, man. Michael Busch. They've got Toronto at 7. For a team that spent as much money as it did in the offseason, 7 might be a little bit lower than a lot of people expected or wanted or had hoped. And considering you were in the World Series a year ago, okay? They're the defending American League champs. Seattle at number 6. With that pitching staff, I think that seems a little low. That starting staff, anyway. They've got, believe it or not, they've got the Mets at 4. They got the Braves at 3. They've got the Yankees at 2, and they've got the Dodgers at 1. There's no. This is strictly from an offensive standpoint, okay? Strictly from an offensive standpoint. They got the A's at 5. My point is, I have said time and time again that as good as Detroit's starting pitching is, and it is good, it's made longer. You want your lineups longer. You want your starting staff longer. You want your bullpens. They've done that. They've accomplished, I think, everything you could hope for from a pitching staff standpoint, based on reputation of players. How it works out, we'll have to wait and see. But you've got options. If you're A.J. Hinch and Chris Fetter, the pitching coach, you've got options at the back end of your bullpen. You've got options as setup guys. You've got righties. You've got lefties. You've got a really good makeup. You've got power pitchers. And you've got guys who throw different stuff and nasty stuff. All right? Whether it be the forkball from Casey Mize to the changeup from Skubal to Valdez's, slider, all these different things. You've got guys who are really, really good in that regard. But your offense is lacking. And as I mentioned, and not that I believe everything that CBSSports.com writes or has written about this, the offense is lacking. It's going to have some things to prove to us. Let's put it that way. Because they really did not upgrade anywhere from an offensive standpoint. Our phone number on the Meyer hotline is 866-838-40 866-838-4843. The Texas Sports Radio 21,000. Shep, AJ Hinch pinch hit Riley Green in the biggest moment of the playoffs. If that isn't motivation to choke up on the bat, I don't know what is. That is something that's going to live with Riley Green for a long time. Remember how much he struggled. To me, that doesn't mean that he's any less of a player. It means his manager was playing the numbers. And I can't necessarily blame him for that. Speaking of numbers, as I mentioned, the franchise tags begin today. Let's not be too fooled in when free agency begins either, because free agency for the National Football League will begin March 8th. So less than a month from now. Who would you franchise if you're the Lions? I don't know if I'd franchise anybody, quite honestly. I'm not franchising Alex Anzalone. I'm not franchising Al-Qadim Muhammad. I'm not doing that. I think a lot of people feel like there's great free agency around the corner and that Detroit can immediately get better from a free agent standpoint. And I was looking at a list of the top 100 players from Pro Football Focus recently. I know, Pro Football Focus. I know, Chris Collinsworth. I get it. They haven't reached the top 100 players yet, but they have reached to 80. And I was thinking, I wonder if there are any Lions in there. Well, one of the guys in there is Tyler Linderbaum, who was graded as the 4th best center in the National Football League this past season. He's listed as the 84th of the top 100 players in the National Football League. Max Crosby, 69. Colston Loveland is 61. They haven't reached the super high numbers yet. And there have been no Lions yet on this list. So when you get all the way down to, I think they got to 60. They got to 60. They have not hit any Lions yet. But I think there's a lot of people who feel like, you know what? If we can get to free agency, everything's going to be okay because we should sign this guy and that guy. And you end up doing some research, and you go through it, and Doug Clawson of CBS did a deep dive into this. And I found this really interesting. He said the annual free agent spending and where they rank in the last 10 seasons. If a team spent its money, all right, in the top 5 of free agent spending, what was their winning percentage? In other words, if of the 32 teams, we'll use the Lions as an example, if they were among the top 5 spenders in free agency, where was their record, their winning percentage the very next year? Top 5, if you're a top 5 spender, your winning percentage was at 47%. If you were one of the 5 lowest spending teams on free agency, your winning percentage was 51%. The highest of any of the free agent spending is if you're between 6 and 10. In other words, if you're not getting big name guys with big name price tags on them, then you're more apt to have success than you would be if you did it the other way around. In other words, not everything is about spending money on certain guys. Sometimes those less known free agents turn out to be a better pickup for you than the big name guys. And I'm not trying to convince you that what this team needs more than anything else is something other than what we've already talked about. Would I like Linderbaum at center? You damn right I would. But we all have a price. And that's the thing we have to remember more than anything else. They're going to have to redo some structure. They're going to have to restructure some contests. There's no question about that. If they want to address a certain need, my thing with the Lions is this. I'm just not sure how many needs they can truly address if they go out and get the best at one specific position. So if you go get Ryan Linderbaum and he's going to cost you, I mean, Frank Ragnow made $13.5 million. Some people think Linderbaum's going to make between $16 and $18 million. That is a heavy, heavy hit, considering you're already paying big money to your left tackle and your right tackle. Something's got to give. So what if you went and got a guy who isn't as well known, but is a starter and just as effective, but for less money, that allows you to spend more money on maybe another position of need? And I bring this up only because I have always felt, I've said this for a long, long time. I've said, I want a team, I want a position, or I want players at positions that are the best at their positions. I don't want those, I love the versatility. I get why you want that for guys coming off your bench in baseball, or maybe your sixth offensive lineman, or maybe your, I don't know, fifth or sixth defensive back. But if I'm putting together a team, maybe this is a flawed philosophy. I'm open to criticism here. If I'm putting together a team and I need a left tackle, I don't want to pick the guy who, he can play guard for me as well. And in a pinch, he could play center for me. I want to get the very best left tackle there is. Knowing that, if that's how I feel about that, do I have a right to feel like, save a little money on this guy and get somebody who maybe is not as well known? So instead of a Tyler Linderbaum, who's considered the best center, What about a Connor McGovern? If you could save a little money, but still get some really good production. Not necessarily make a trade for Max Crosby, but sign a Joey Bosa to a little bit more of a friendly contract. If you're not drafting a guard, you don't get the right guy. Maybe you sign a Joel Bitonio, somebody along those lines. You know what I mean? We're looking at the big names because those big names carry big price tags and oftentimes are productive. Let's be honest. But in a certain situation with this defense and opposite a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, and hopefully you have success in the middle. You need a bounce back season for sure from your defensive tackles. Roy Lopez was your best defensive tackle. When you have a guy like Aiden Hutchinson out there saying, I'm going to bat for Al-Qadim Muhammad, DJ Reader, Roy Lopez, all these free agents that I've grown up with, they've become close friends. That's fine. Be friends with them in the offseason. I'm not spending $13 million for Al-Qadim Muhammad. I'm not bringing back DJ Reader when he wasn't very good just because you like them as your friends. This isn't back in the 60s when Jim Brown went to go speak for one of his teammates and changed Paul Brown's mind. It's not the way it works in today's NFL. How's it going to work for Michigan State tonight against UCLA? How's it going to work for Michigan at Purdue? We'll talk a lot of college hoops in the final hour of X's and Bros. This hour is brought to you by Meijer on a Tullymore Tuesday on the Michigan Sports Network.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. Just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Huge here for Josh Garvey and his team at Dorn Mayhew, West Michigan. Now, they continue to grow. They got their worldwide headquarters in Troy, Michigan, on the east side of the state. They are worldwide. They are the leaders when it comes to accounting, CPA, and business needs. Simple and easy. Just Google Dorn Mayhew. And also, Josh Garvey joins me every Tuesday as we talk hoops with former Michigan and Cleveland Cavaliers head coach John Beilein. Tuesdays, 5 p.m., Josh Garvey, Coach Beilein, and myself, we talk Michigan, Michigan State, and the Pistons. Talking hoops happens all the way through the NBA Finals. And could you imagine if the Pistons are in the NBA Finals? If you ever have a hoops question for us, you can drop it at Huge Show on Twitter, The Huge Show on Facebook, and Talking Hoops every Tuesday at 5 p.m., presented by one of the world's top accounting, CPA, and business firms, Dorn Mayhew.
Grocery shopping at Meijer is a good deal better with family favorites for under $2, like red seedless grapes for $1.88 per pound. General Mills Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Honey Nut Cheerios, just $1.99 each. And select varieties of Meijer pasta are only $1 each. Great family meals at a great value. That's the good life at Meijer. Exclusions apply. See all deals in the Meijer app.
Avelo Airlines knows you love the Tigers because they love them too. It's why they have direct flights to Lakeland, Florida out of both Grand Rapids and Detroit. Thursdays and Sundays are nonstop out of GR, and Wednesdays and Saturdays are nonstop out of Detroit. So wherever you are in Michigan, you can get down to spring training to watch your Tigers. With everyday low fares, reliable service, you do not want to fly any other way. Head to AveloAir.com to book your trip now. That's AVELO air.com and use code HUGE for $20 off a round trip base fare if you book before March 31st. Restrictions do apply.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Farrah's Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
Huge here for the annual Grand Rapids Griffins Purple Community Game, which is coming up on Friday, March 13th at Van Andel Arena in downtown GR. It's a night dedicated to supporting research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's at Van Andel Institute. The Griffins will be taking on the Milwaukee Admirals in special purple jerseys, and you'll have a chance to bid on a limited edition purple jersey of your own after the game. It's a night you won't want to miss. Learn more about the Grand Rapids Griffins Purple Community Game at vai.org/events and also at griffinshockey.com.
Big game for Michigan tonight. They're at Purdue. Michigan, the number one team in the country. For the first time in 13 years, they are number one in the national basketball poll, the Associated poll, and they take on the number 7 Boilermakers. Anthony Broome will be there at Mackey. It's one of the loudest, if not the loudest place in the Big Ten, and he joins us here on X's and Bros. Anthony Broome from the Wolverine. You can follow him on Twitter at Anthony Broome with an E. Anthony, appreciate it as always, my friend. They are number one in the nation. Why do you think they are deserving? I think most people would agree, but why do you think they're most deserving, and how do you think they got there?
Well, 24-1 is a good place to start. I think with them too, the gear that they have. I mean, you just look at those 2 games last week. You come back from a double-digit deficit at Northwestern, win by double digits thanks to a 41-13 run. You outscore UCLA 46-18 in the second half on Saturday in a game that was a 2-point game at the half. I just think the gear that they have when they put pedal to the metal is just higher than anyone else in college basketball. And they've got, a 9-man rotation full of guys that I think on most teams in the Big Ten, a couple of guys coming off the bench would probably start. So, they have the depth. I think they've got, the offensive and defensive efficiency that the analytics like. It took Arizona losing a couple big games for it to happen, but they've been kind of number one on KenPom and some of the other sites for a while. So to finally have that designation feels justified to me.
Yeah, what do they do better than perhaps most people don't recognize?
Well, I think with Dusty May teams, people automatically go and saying it's a little bit finesse and they play up tempo and they're going to shoot a lot of threes, but they're kind of defined right now by elite 2-point offense and elite 2-point defense. Their teams are not getting easy buckets on them. And because of how big, how athletic their front court is, they're finding a lot of easy buckets on other teams and on some really good defenses too. So I think that's, and certainly a week like this where you're going to go play at Mackey, the game's on Peacock, but a lot of people will be watching that. Saturday, you play Duke on ESPN. I think people are going to be, maybe the casual college basketball fans who are kind of now just starting to lock in ahead of March Madness are going to see a team that is extremely physical and just brings it at both ends of the floor. This isn't, it's not, just chucking 33s a game and playing fast. These guys get after it too.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think their defense is better than people give them credit for. So many people talking about the offense, and I get it, but I think it's their defense that's impressed me and their depth and their length overall. Anthony Broome from the Wolverine joining us here on X's and Bros, getting ready for number 1 against number 7 tonight. I hate this question, but because it's topical, you've already answered it with a lot of your friends and a lot of people in general. I think it's a nothing burger, but help me with it. Yaxel Landenborg, before the season, 4 months ago, for crying out loud, said something at a bar stupidly and was recorded about Purdue. How much of a factor is that tonight, do you believe?
Well, he's going to hear about it, whether it would happen back in May or not. Like, it's out there, and then once it hits the internet, that's, it takes on a life of its own. So, we talked to Dusty May about it yesterday. It seems like he's remorseful of it. It was just kind of a fleeting moment. Probably a guy's walking up to him with his phone in the bar saying, "Hey, my buddy's a Purdue fan. Can you tell him this, and that?" And, that stuff tends to find its way out into the world. So he will hear about it from the Mackey crowd tonight. And really the only thing you can do now is go out and play your heart out and make that the discussion instead. So yeah, it's, they've handled it internally. I don't think, like Dusty May said, we're not canceling our travel plans to have a roundtable discussion about it with our team or anything, but there's a spotlight on you. And, that was a big jump from UAB to Michigan in terms of the platform, in terms of what will get out there. And I don't think he's a bad guy or a disrespectful guy, but just got caught in a bad moment. And now he's going to have to hear it from the Mackey faithful. And, if it goes anything like it did when he was hearing things from the Breslin faithful, that might be good news for Michigan tonight.
Yeah, I mean, every time he touches the ball tonight, he's definitely going to hear about it. What's their Achilles heel?
Don't give up 15 threes in a game. I think that's the floor for them at this point. You know, it took a game like that for someone to walk out of Chrysler Center with a one possession win. I think for them, sometimes what they I think they take too many quick shots. Sometimes in the shot clock. I think despite their size too, we see them. I mean, they got out rebounded by I think 10 against UCLA in the first half on Saturday. You know, they don't always use their size and their athleticism to their advantage, but like I said, a lot of their issues are kind of fleeting or nitpicks at times. I just think that when you are as good in as many areas as they are, and also, you know, I mean, it's been a problem for 2 years. When they're really struggling, it's the turnovers. They've done a much better job consistently taking care of the basketball, but we still see when those balloon and you know, what that can mean for them. So, yeah, I have some reservations about how up and down the guard play can be at times. You know, that's a huge key in March Madness, but overall, like I said, their gear relative to everyone else, I think, is the best in the country, and their floor might be the best in the country because they haven't really had that night where they've gotten run off the floor.
Yeah, it's a good way to describe it. You said earlier, you mentioned it. Look, they play Purdue ranked 7th tonight, neutral site against Duke, number 4 in the country, this coming weekend. I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that they're playing back-to-back tough games. They're not going to look past any one team to get to the next best team. So the challenge is there. How do you feel about playing 2 really tough teams in 1 week span?
Well, there's nothing that will distract you more from reading your press clippings than having to do a deep dive on Purdue and then turn right back around and prepare for Duke on Saturday. You know, it's not like they were named number 1. Now you go into a week where you're playing, you know, Minnesota and Rutgers. Like this is as high alert of a week as they've had this year, outside of that week with Nebraska and Michigan State. So I think they've done a really good job of maybe not so much insulating themselves from the outside noise. I know quite a bit of, you know, those guys are all active on social media. Even Dusty May is on social media, but they really do. They've done a nice job compartmentalizing it. And I don't think it's going to be a distraction. I don't think they're going to get the big head. You know, if anything, I think one of those moments might have been last week, you know, at Northwestern, where you go down as much as they did, but it can be a dangerous trait to have at times, but their ability to kind of flip the switch and turn it on when they need to, and they have turned it on against elite teams this year. I mean, they have not slipped up, and in fact, most of the time, they've spanked these teams. You think back to that week in Vegas and some of the other teams that they've played on their schedule. It's these are kind of the games where when the lights have been the brightest, they've really clicked into that gear that we talked about before. So I'm excited. That doesn't mean they're going to win 2 games this week. Doesn't mean they're going to split them, but they'll be ready for it. And I'm excited to see, you know, 2 high intensity, you know, Elite 8, Final Four caliber matchups on deck this week.
Yeah, me too. And it's not just this week. Of course, they've got Illinois still in Champaign-Urbana. They still have Michigan State at home. There's still some challenges on the schedule, but everybody's circling them on their schedule, knowing how good Michigan is this year. Anthony Broom do a great job with the Wolverine. Tell Chris and everybody over there we said hello, and thanks for the time today. We appreciate it.
Will do. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Anthony Broom from the Wolverine joined us. Follow him on Twitter at Anthony Broom. Chris Solari joins us at the bottom of the hour. We'll get a Michigan State perspective here on X's and Bros. We're brought to you this hour by Avelo Airlines.
Grocery shopping at Meijer is a good deal better with family favorites for under $2, like red seedless grapes for $1.88 per pound. General Mills Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Honey Nut Cheerios, just $1.99 each. And select varieties of Meijer pasta are only $1 each. Great family meals at a great value. That's the good life at Meijer. Exclusions apply. See all deals in the Meijer app.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com.
You're listening to X's and Bros with Matt Shepard on the Michigan Sports Network. We'll be right back after this break, but while you're waiting, be sure to vote on our daily poll question presented by MitchLyonsWealth.com at XB Mornings on X.
Ferris Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Ferris Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu.
Okay, back with you on X's and Bros across the great state of Michigan. Our thanks to Anthony Broom. Anthony Broom, who writes for the Wolverine, really does a nice job covering Michigan basketball and giving us a little insight to what Michigan is all about and how they are primed for the game against Purdue tonight. And Purdue is a team that that they can use that home court to their advantage without a doubt. As I said during the interview, I like the fact that Michigan has back-to-back tough games. You're not looking. I think looking past teams can be often overrated, but at this time of the year, when you have a tendency, I mean, they're teenagers and 20-year-olds and so on and so forth. They have a tendency to maybe, I can't wait for the NCAA tournament because you know you're in, right? Now, where do you want to be positioned? As a 1 seed, Michigan's going to be a 1 seed if they finish their business. I don't care what they do in the Big Ten tournament. I think they're going to be a 1 seed. Houston might have played themselves out of a 1 seed last night. Anyway, because they lost to Iowa State. Anyway, good conversation with Anthony Broom. Always appreciate that. Looking forward to Chris Solari joining us at the bottom of the hour to talk a little Michigan State. Before we get to the final results of the poll question, I would like yesterday on SportsCenter, which I'm required to watch, but I don't always enjoy watching, but it was last night. Ian Shumpert, the former New York Knicks player, was asked which team is primed to win the East in the NBA. He said, look, it'd be silly not to mention the Pistons. But he said, I think it's the Knicks.
No bias there, you think?
Yeah, no bias. He said, look, they know how to close games. He said, it's their time. And I'm thinking, okay, not that you need to follow every single game of every team. It's not fair. It's too much. And you and I don't want to say we're in a bubble, but we watch every Pistons game. Even if you're only watching the Knicks, are you not recognizing the fact that they were not just beaten by the Pistons, and they will play the Pistons on Thursday, they were beaten soundly by the Pistons. 31-38. And quite honestly, the Pistons could have named their score. I don't care what Jalen Brunson did in the All-Star game. I don't care what Karl Anthony Towns did as a member of Team World. Doesn't matter to me. I care about what these teams look like when they match up against one another. Knicks, win, loss, win, loss. They just lost to the Pacers, for Christ's sakes, at home by 3 in overtime, prompting Phil Jackson to say, this team does not have it. And this dude's going to hang his hat on the Knicks. There was a period where they lost 4 games in a row to the Kings, the Warriors, the Suns, and the Mavericks when Cooper Flagg went crazy on them. Long before that, they lost 4 in a row. Now, to good teams, Spurs, Hawks, Sixers, and Pistons. But remember, before that game against the Pistons, they had just lost to the Sixers, and people thought, that's a little bit of a rivalry game. Maybe the same 2 teams in the same area, same division, so on and so forth. They're going to bounce back. This is where they're going to show their mettle. And what does Detroit do? They run them out of the gym by 31 at the time. I can't get over. Look, I could be way off base here. I can't get over how people use what criteria they're using to think that the New York Knicks, who are 6 games back of Detroit, and it's not like they're bad, 10 games above the break even, that's fine, but that they have any business being a favorite. You think they got a chance? Okay. All right. Why wouldn't you think that? Boston's got a chance. Cleveland's got a chance. I'm not saying Detroit is definitively the team to pick in the East, It's just when you start to use that criteria, they know how to close games, and they've done this against this team and so on. So look at the 2 games against Detroit. The matchup is a bad matchup for them. It's a really bad matchup. Let's get to the final results of the poll question, because we're going to talk with Chris Solari here at 8:35. The results from the poll question. How about from a couple of days ago? We had asked you, what do you think of the NBA All-Star format and the game? Loved it, liked it, hated it, didn't watch. That's what we asked you yesterday. How did people vote on that one?
Yesterday, they said 70% didn't watch, which is kind of a shame, I think.
Wow.
I know. I understand why. Viewership was up 87% from last year, for crying out loud, but that goes to show how few people watched last year.
Did you like the start time?
I was okay with it. Yeah, because it was right after the Daytona 500. It timed up pretty nicely.
Yeah. Okay. I have no problem with it either. Some people I was talking to yesterday had a problem with the Saturday night events, and came up with an idea. If this, this is a fascinating idea. Tell me what you think. Instead of playing 3 games of 12 minutes, play 2 full games. Team USA against the world. Play it on a Friday night. Then on a Saturday, you have your skills competition and dunk competition with players who are not in the All-Star games. And then Sunday, play the second game between Team USA and Team World. What do you think of that idea?
I don't mind it. I mean, that would definitely draw more, just based on this year's logic, that would draw more for a Friday night, because Lord knows no one was watching the celebrity game and all that stuff going on Friday night. Friday and Saturday are still a disaster. Let's be very clear. But I thought Sunday was rock solid. So
agreed.
I don't hate that idea, Shep.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Friday and Saturday was a disaster. I don't think people are watching. Friday night with the real game would give people a reason to watch, especially if they care as much. Let's just say you had, sake of argument, 16 players per roster. You played an 8-man team Friday night. Let's just say it's a half. Even if you just want to play a half, you don't want to play a full game because they get tired, that's fine. Play a half, 2 quarters, with 8 against 8, not on the floor at the same time, but the roster of 8 against 8 on a Friday.
Right.
And then the other 8 against the other 8 on Sunday.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Just
but then I guess the only deterrent there would be some of the players wouldn't get to play against other players. You wouldn't see certain matchups, so how would you make the teams work? But that's all. You can figure that stuff out.
Yeah, I mean,
step one is draw the audience, right?
I'm trying to find a way to enhance the game and keep it as competitive as it was on Sunday. Let's get to the Daily Wager, brought to you by Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort and our friends at Ascend, their sportsbook there. How did your Daily Wager do last night? My guess is it didn't do very well.
No, it was slim pickings last night. I went with Duke basketball and Syracuse. I needed Syracuse to cover 20. They lost by close to 40, so didn't work out. But tonight, thank goodness, we got more to work with, and I'm going to take the under in the Michigan-Purdue game. It is currently set at 156.5. Just for context, the Michigan State UCLA game is set at 139.5, so it's almost 20 points higher than the Michigan State UCLA game. And I just think both teams, it's going to be intense. It's going to be loud. I see it being not even low scoring, just not that high scoring. So give me the under 156.5.
It's a high scoring game, man. So I'm with you on that. By the way, last night, Cameron Boozer had 22 to lead Duke, and they beat Syracuse 101-64. Not that Syracuse is any great shakes, but Duke is a team. Like we talk a lot about Michigan, and for good reason, at 24-1. Duke's 24-2. And they got beat on one of those shots against North Carolina on a last-second shot. Remember the 3 from the corner?
Yeah, the court
gave
storm.
Carolina the win? Right, and then the court storm. They could easily be 25-1. When we come back, we'll talk with Chris Solari. The level of disappointment with this team losing 3 out of 4 in the month of February, what gives? We'll talk with him on the other side here on a Tullymore Tuesday. We're brought to you this hour by Avello Airlines.
Grocery shopping at Meijer is a good deal better with family favorites for under $2, like red seedless grapes for $1.88 per pound. General Mills Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Honey Nut Cheerios, just $1.99 each. And select varieties of Meijer pasta are only $1 each. Great family meals at a great value. That's the good life at Meijer. Exclusions apply. See all deals in the Meijer app.
Avello Airlines knows you love the Tigers because they love them too. It's why they have direct flights to Lakeland, Florida out of both Grand Rapids and Detroit. Thursdays and Sundays are nonstop out of GR, and Wednesdays and Saturdays are nonstop out of Detroit. So wherever you are in Michigan, you can get down to spring training to watch your Tigers. With everyday low fares, reliable service, you do not want to fly any other way. Head to AvelloAir.com to book your trip now. That's AVELO air.com and use code HUGE for $20 off a round trip base fare if you book before March 31st. Restrictions do apply.
Huge here with an invitation for everybody to join the Grand Rapids Griffins and Van Andel Institute for the Purple Community Game, which is coming up on March 13th in downtown Grand Rapids. It's a night dedicated to supporting research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's at Van Andel Institute, and you'll have a chance to bid on limited edition Purple Griffins jerseys. You can learn more at vai.org/events.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
After a quiet night last night in sports overall, we in Michigan get a couple of really good wins tonight, including Michigan State at home against UCLA. Chris Solari will be there. He covers the Spartans sports program, not just basketball, but for the Detroit Free Press. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris Solari, and he joins us here on X's and Both. Chris, we appreciate it as always. People talk to me a lot about February and MSU, and I did some research the last 5 years. Michigan State is 21-18 in the month of February. I don't know if that's a big enough sample size for you, but why do you think that would be?
Yeah, and I think it's, that in and of itself is something that looks bad, but I think that I do think it goes beyond just the past 5 years. I do think the last 5 years is a rough sample size just with the COVID year and everything. And also because that team didn't have the kind of point guard that Jeremy Fears Jr. is, in the last 5 years. I mean, he's a lot more in that Cassius Winston, Mateen Cleaves, Kalen Lucas lead guard role that AJ Hogarth never really seized and showed he could do. So I think that's some of it. But the February swoon is one that goes back many, many years. And I mean, even I think the title team in 2000 may have had a little dip at one point as well. So, but some of that is just the competition of the Big Ten. You hit those patches where you're facing top teams, and sometimes it's right at this time of year.
What's the biggest concern over the recent 3 losses in 4 games for Tom Izzo and company, do you think?
Well, I think you have to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to compartmentalize them, because I do think that there are a few of them that you need to put in silos. One, the outside shooting in the 2-guard situation has been rough, especially with the loss of Divine Ugochukwu. Jordan Scott has come on and been a contributor and hustle plays, and he's starting to hit some threes. So that's, I think, one thing. And 2, the backup point guard situation. You can't have Fears running 40 minutes a game, but you might have to, or pretty close to it, because right now the backup ball handler is Denim Wojcik, who, a year ago was at Harvard. So that's, that was partly another reason why the Ugochukwu loss was big, is he was the number 1 guy, if you will. And then I think those are things that aren't necessarily fixable. Those are things you're going to have to navigate and manage. The third thing is fixable, and it's the play of your bigs. Because I think that when Michigan State got off to its hot start, Jackson Kohler was hitting from outside at a 50+% clip.
Yeah. And
defenses have adjusted now that they're in Big Ten play. Seeing more guys hedge out on the pick and pop, and they're coming at him with hands up and not giving him open looks, and consequently, Kohler's passing out of those situations. And anytime he catches on the block, they're running a double on him. I'd probably say about 75, 80% of the time. And why? Because they want to get the ball out of his hands and make him pass. So, that's, I think, him and Carson Cooper need to really step up their play. Because if you're not a great 3-point shooting team, you don't have help coming on the way. At least not this year. I think you got to be able to do some things with your back to the basket and in the paint. And really, Wisconsin just took it to them there. So I think that's where they got to get fixed.
You and I have been doing this a long time. You know how people like to dwell on the negative. And to a certain extent, I get it. How much have we lost sight of the fact this team's 20-5? They're 10-4 in Big Ten play. They're 3rd in the country in rebounding margin, and they're 10th in the nation in assists.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I want Tom Izzo to hear that, because that's basically you saying that we're old, and I'd like him to know that. I said the other day that he's an older coach, so I think that we deserve a little bit of that too. That we've been around this for a while now.
Fair enough, Chris. Fair enough.
We are now older, but I do think that boy, you kind of look at it, and I think this team is one that I don't want to say it hit its ceiling early or peaked early, but it was gelling early, right? And then they went on the West Coast trip, and things started to just get wonky. And I think it started with the post situation. And Izzo has been railing on the 2-guard spot for the entire season. And a lot of the things that you've seen in the last 5 games, if you count the Rutgers game that they had to come back and win, the manifestations of things that Tom Izzo pointed to and essentially predicted all the way back in December. So, I think the hot start and it is what does it. But I mean, and that's what happens. That's why fans get frustrated, is because you set the bar for excellence and expectations as Tom Izzo, right?
Right.
So sometimes when 20-5 hits, and we're still in February, still in mid-February, and you're already at 20 wins, and you're pretty much in punch carded to the tournament yet again for the 28th straight year. I don't want to say they're spoiled, but you get accustomed to this.
No,
right?
I get it.
I
think you're right. I think you're 100% right, but I also think some of it has to do with the loss to Michigan at home. Breslin Center, I've argued this. It's the second toughest place to play in the Big Ten. I think Mackey's the first. But I think Breslin Center is intimidating. It is tough for teams to go in there and win. And when you
I'll put 2 more on there. I'll put the Pinnacle Bank and the Rack.
Yeah, well, when Michigan State goes there, perhaps I don't think the Rack. I thought maybe you were going to go Illinois, Indiana,
Purdue
or
about
Iowa.
That. I mean, he knocked off Purdue twice was number 1. I mean,
no, I get it.
It's
I
a
get it.
Sneaky tough place.
It is.
I would, and it's when it's hopping, right? I mean, that's not an everyday thing. Breslin, Mackey, those are hopping all the time.
Breslin hops when Minnesota. Yeah, but Breslin hops when Minnesota's in there. The Rack doesn't hop when Minnesota's in there. When Northwestern comes to the Rack, you could literally hear a pin drop. So to me,
great big game venue.
Anybody can do that. I talk about facilities that they are packed on a regular basis, and it doesn't matter if Indiana State's in there. No disrespect to the Sycamores, but I do believe that has had a lingering effect on Michigan State fans more than anything else. How am I wrong there in the loss at the U of M?
I think it's not so much the game itself, because I do think that Michigan State fans saw the team that Dusty May has built and the job that they have done in coalescing so quickly with so many new guys. I think they saw that, and I don't want to say feared it, but I think they respected the talent level. I think it was everything that came after the game that probably has them put them on tilt a little bit more, with Dusty talking about Jeremy Fears and the situations of the cut-ups of Fears, throwing his feet around and doing some things that he probably shouldn't be doing. Most basketball, some of it is that these things happen in the middle of a game, pushes, shoves, little things. I mean, I think about the Jordan jersey tug, right? I mean, Jordan, if review happened when Jordan was a player, how many of those ball screen jersey tugs would get called?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone talks about how great a defender Jordan was, but that man lived not even in the gray area of the rules. He knew how to hide some of that stuff he was doing. Is it dirty? Is it doing everything that you have to? And that's the line that's tough to discern, right? But I do think that how that transpired, honestly, I do think that Michigan beat Michigan State twice that week, because that Minnesota game was a residual effect of everything that happened on that Monday when Dusty was talking about that.
Yeah,
and I think that took them out of their headspace that they were in, and they allowed themselves to, Izzo included, to be thinking about the last opponent and not the next one.
Yeah, and in fairness to Tom Izzo and the Spartans, they were asked about it. I don't know if, they were concentrating on it, but when somebody asked you a question, they answered it. So that's part of it. How much, at this time of the year, as much as you're looking to play the certain teams that are left on your schedule, Chris, but you're also looking at the Big Ten tournament. And let's face it, especially in Michigan State in 28 straight years, you're looking at the NCAA tournament, and the people who constantly talk to you about this and won't let you leave a party before you answer the question, how much better can this team be in the NCAA tournament? What is their ceiling? How do you respond to that?
It's a hard one with this group.
Yeah.
Because I do think that, listen, you've got one point guard right now. That's at some point going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Because either Jeremy Fears is going to wear down from playing too many minutes, or you're going to have Denim Wojcik in a bad spot, in need of there, whether Fears gets in foul trouble or whatever, and he's not equipped for high-level Big Ten athletes, those are two of the situations that you got to run into there, let's say you get to the Big Ten tournament. What's the more beneficial thing for the bigger picture of March and the NCAA tournament beyond it? Is it trying to go chase 3 or 4 wins that are going to be necessary to win a tournament title? Because their odds, they're not mathematically eliminated from the regular season, but in crunching some of the numbers and looking at some of the scenarios, they would basically need Michigan, Purdue, Illinois, and Wisconsin to all lose pretty much all their games the rest of the way and sweep the last 6.
Yeah.
So they're down to less than 1% chance of winning a regular season title. Do you chase a Big Ten tournament title, or do you kind of punt on that and keep your guys fresh, knowing that if you want the bigger picture, you have to get 6 games in 3 weeks with one point guard? I don't know. It's going to be a fascinating March, though, because this team does have a high ceiling because Jeremy Fears is playing at such an elite level.
Yeah.
Can the guys around contribute, and can he stay out of harm's way himself?
Yeah, he's such a good player. Leads the team, as you said, in minutes, leads the team in points, and his 9.2 assists are tops in all Division I. Last thing for Chris Solari of the Free Press, and we appreciate your time on a Tullymore Tuesday. UCLA, they're not a bad team by any stretch, but Mick Cronin he's a little rough around the edges. He's tough on his team, which I like. I thought he was really good at Cincinnati. What do you expect tonight between the Spartans and the Bruins, knowing that UCLA was just humbled at Chrysler just a couple of days ago?
Well, I expect two coaches who kind of go about it the same old school Midwest kind of way. And it is fascinating that Xavier Booker, and that's going to be a big side story. Booker coming back to East Lansing. I know he didn't have a great game down in Ann Arbor, and quite honestly, he had a great game a couple weeks ago with 24 points, and then followed with a 1 point effort after that, the next game. So he's continued to be kind of up and down, but it's going to be interesting to see his reception. But anyways, back to the point of Cronin and Izzo. I mean, you think about Booker going and playing for Izzo and then going to Mick Cronin. A lot of people were kind of questioning, like, why is he going to play for the same kind of coach? Like, it didn't make a lot of sense. But that's, I think that both those guys know and respect each other. And I don't know if they've played really all that much, Cronin and Izzo. But they've recruited the same turf, and Izzo's known him all the way back to when he was an assistant at Cincy. So I think this UCLA team is. I said this in maybe about the middle or January, just kind of looking at the schedule, that they were one that could sneak their way up the standings here in the back half, because their schedule after this trip lightened up a little bit, and then they everybody else is tightening up. So but Donovan Dent's a kid we saw last year with New Mexico in the NCAA tournament when Michigan State played him down in Cleveland. They can force him into some turnovers, and he has a shooting struggle in that game. So for Michigan State, I think that this is the kind of matchup you need to take care of at home. This one in the Ohio State game on Sunday, because if you want to get momentum back and playing the way you were in early to mid-January, you got to serve at home.
Yeah, I have argued when healthy and when connected, and that's the key word. Michigan State's a top 10 team in the country, and I think they're still ready to show that. Just real quick, how have you enjoyed getting to know Pat Fitzgerald? I think it's a perfect hire for MSU.
Yeah, I like Pat Fitzgerald, and I liked him all the way back when he was at Northwestern.
Same.
It's funny because he's had a couple of things, and we've been on the road for football or for basketball, so that's kind of the peril of double dipping with both the sports. But I've run into him a few times here and there, and he's got a big personality. There's no question about it. It's can you win somewhere that you're not familiar with? And I think he is, unlike Jonathan Smith, I do think he was much more familiar with Midwest mindset and Michigan State's history. So we'll see now if he can turn that into a bowl game again, and then kind of getting back on the path that D'Antonio had the program on.
Yeah, I think the identity in which they play will drastically change, and that's what I like about the hire more than anything else. You bring great insight, and we always appreciate your time. I know it's valuable because you got a family and you got a lot of stuff on your plate, but thanks for spending some time with us here on a Tuesday. Enjoy the game tonight. Keep up the great work. We'll be reading your stuff, as always, in the Detroit Free Press. Chris Solari. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Chuck.
All right. Yeah, Chris Solari does a great job, man. We're really fortunate. I mean, we've got some really good writers. We've got some really good guys who we bring on and we trust, and we talk to them and get to know Michigan State and Michigan athletics a lot better than perhaps we did when we started the program. And Chris is one of those guys. So our thanks to Anthony Broom and our thanks to Chris Solari for joining us. Most of all, thanks to you for giving us some of your Tuesday. This hour has been brought to you by Avello Airlines. Don't